Talk to me, dog.
Dude, have you seen, did you get to see the WWDC, the developers conference for Apple?
Oh, no, I didn't even know they had one of those.
So this is typically the part of the year where they come out with anything new for developers in the iOS space, in the Mac space. A lot of software, more software than anything else, but they start to sometimes release a little bit of new hardware and things like that. And before I get into what they talked about, where do you stand and what is your opinion, Apple versus PC, or if you're talking about the phones, like where are you at?
Well, we're gonna get into the specifics of it, so I'm gonna give you like a little overview, a quick one, right?
Yeah.
I've always been PC over Mac. I've always been a Mac hater. I've never had an iPhone. I've always had cheap ass piece of shit Android phones, and I'm proud of it.
Good.
So I'll leave you with that, but I'll give you details later because even though I might sound douchey when I say that, I do have actual reservations about Android and Microsoft and PC, and I do have some good things to say about Mac and their OS and their whole little organism that they have.
Which they call the ecosystem.
Oh, the ecosystem.
The ecosystem, yeah. And Google is subscribing to this thought process as well. I mean, you have a lot of overlay now. After this year's developers conference, what's really interesting to me is that they brought, for instance, let's just talk about the phones for a moment, right? An iOS 14, they finally brought in widgets. Now, you being an Android user, you have been able to put the apps wherever you want, and you've been also able to put a banner or some kind of a widget with, say, the weather or the stocks or the news or whatever, right? I mean, literally everything, like battery, whatever. They have finally, what they were saying, were some of the YouTubers that I watch were saying that 8 years later is when they finally brought that opportunity to Apple. And they still did not allow you to put the apps wherever you want or anything like that. But that's always going to be Apple. So for the people who are Apple, who like Apple and things like that, like, you know, what I believe to be true is that there's a lot of people who like Apple who are not really into the customization, and not really into like the whole like the super duper like granular setting diving and things like that. Like these are the people who pick up something and have a purpose and they want to complete a X task, but they don't really want to care about, you know, all the settings and all the little things that it involves to get to that task. And so Apple kind of takes
They don't
want to
have to pick inside their system. They want it all. Now, I didn't even know this. So, for example, when you have your phone and you have the apps, right? Like YouTube, this, you cannot move them.
No, you can move them, like, and they're movable, but you can't put one app on the bottom and one app on the top. You actually, it's a progression. If you add an app, it literally is like the first row, the second row, the third row, the fourth row, in that order. So
you cannot drag one and put them at the bottom.
You can't take that app and drop it to the bottom and have that be like the one lonely app on the bottom. There's a dock, you know, if when you look at it.
Yeah, but isn't that how Android works? Like, oh, you mean like, okay, they have to be next to each other.
Yeah, like if you look at my phone, I don't know if you can see it from the camera, but like everything is top to bottom. Other than what's on the dock, everything is top to bottom. I can't move this app.
Okay.
I can't move this app and put it. Oh, I don't know if you can see it. I don't even know if my camera can see this, but I can't leave it here. I let it go and it swings right back to where up top. So whatever.
Like for example, if you wanted to do this. Let me just see, because I think by looking at it, it's going to make more sense to me. Like here, I have them separated in a new page.
Can't do it. Can't do that.
You can just have them in different places. Okay,
right.
So for people that cannot see I'll show you my phone. You can have the apps it's an Android. It's a Huawei. Hashtag I love China. You can see here that the icons, you can put them. It's sort of like very similar to like how you can use a Windows PC and put and drag it in desktop. Okay.
Yeah. Which you could do this, and you could do this in Mac.
I see how that's annoying. So would you say that this little bits of lack of personalization, if you can get over that, then you can enjoy the performance and the
correct
and the reliability and also efficiency of their systems.
Yes.
I gotta talk well about them as well. They just have an ecosystem that allows them, because they make everything themselves except the CPUs, which we're gonna get to something very interesting right now.
Yes,
they're able to make the hardware perform a lot better. As a PC user, I have to be very in deep with like how to optimize and change shit on my thing so that I can make it work how I want.
Yeah,
and it's not user friendly, really.
Yeah, when you look at say, what was it, Windows Vista. When you start looking at all the different operating systems, you have Windows Vista, you have Windows 8, Windows 8.1. These are all OSs that fell flat, and they fell flat for a couple different reasons. Because a lot of the times, again, and this is why Apple kind of harps on this developers conference. I know that Microsoft also has this developers conference, but it's so much more disorganization, where Apple is like, here, this is what Apple's doing, and you jump on or don't. But Microsoft's like, I'm doing this. Oh shit! Well, let's make a patch from this person to this person, and this person to this person, and this person to this. And like Apple's just like, this is the breakdown. You put your system to these specifications, and that's what makes them run so clean. And then of course with their hardware, and they can do different things to prioritize certain things. When you really have to learn how to deep dive on the drivers in Windows to be able to accomplish a fraction of that. However, the power that you guys have at the cost point and the price point that you guys come at is undeniable. It's just, I think
that's the problem. I think that's the main thing. Like, for example, the reason why our setting has changed for me is because my PC recently fucking broke. and the motherboard and the CPUs, one of those things fried. So I need to get both of those things, right? So I built a meantime computer, like for the meantime, right? And that's what I'm working with. And when I was choosing the parts and and I had to do this in a rush way. Like when I first built my first power station, I had months and months of researching. Obviously, I have a bit more knowledge now. So for this one, I literally had a few days to just pick parts and build a computer. And I had so many options, bro. And to me, I love that I had so many options, and I could personalize my power station how I wanted it with the prices that, okay. But I could definitely see how there's people that would you tell them that, and they're like, that's overwhelming. Like, no, bro. I just want you to give me something that works, and that's it. Where I actually enjoy looking at the little bits and pieces and being able to be like, oh no, with this one I can get a bit more RAM and I can put this graphics card, but then, oh, this one brings Wi-Fi. Fuck yeah, I don't want. So, but this one costs more. Okay, but this one works great. Oh, but the drivers aren't working right on this one. I like that, but that does take a different type of person. When you are like that, then you can take advantage of a PC. Because you're fucking with it and you love that shit, you know? Yeah. And what are the consequences? Well, fuck. My computer fucking fried and now I'm building one. And that shit happens.
Yeah. When did you build that? When did you build that first power station?
The first power station, I built it almost 3 years ago. And to be honest, it was my first build. And also, I fucking tweaked that shit like a motherfucker. Sure. I was always overclocking it. If you don't know what overclock is when you pretty much start putting more voltage and rising the speeds of the processor, and sort of not really how it's meant to be done, but you do it, and that shit puts strain on the CPU, on the motherboard. So I think eventually that's what fried it. Yeah. But that's something that you cannot do on the Mac. Now.
So my Mac, this particular Mac that I'm talking to you on, is from mid 2012. We're talking about over 8 years ago, and it's still going strong. And actually, it's funny, I literally just got a box to upgrade this laptop because this is one of the last laptops, so you can change it. I got it last night. I walked in, I was like, fuck yeah.
Well, you got the RAM and the SSDs, right?
The RAM, the SSDs, and the new battery, because laptops have that problem.
Nice.
So
no,
yeah.
I've heard people that have the 2012, 2011 models of the Mac Pro.
Yeah.
And those babies are amazing. I'm thinking of, when I'm done with the whole PC reconstruction, of getting a used 2011, 2012 one, hooking it up, and having a little portable recording studio. Because, bro, at the end of the day, okay, this is the main difference. If you want me to break it down quickly, what it is. Mac is so optimized, and they work so hard on having their software be so clean, that they're able to have applications perform at a certain level with very low hardware. Yeah. Where in the other case, a PC is not as efficient on the software side. It has to have a lot more hardware installed so that you can get to the same performance of the Mac. So pretty much the Mac is just so good in the optimization of their software that they need a lot less hardware to run the same performance on applications.
Yep.
That comes at a cost, though. So
yes,
that's where you start. What type of person are you? With the Mac, you can spend $5,000 on a fucking MacBook Pro, clean as hell, and you can go to the Genius Bar, pay the extra things for them to help you every time you have an issue, and you're gonna have an amazing experience. But you're gonna be spending $5,000 plus whatever it costs to have the little Genius Bars going, type shit, right?
Mm-hmm. I would just put that in as I've gone to the Genius Bar a bunch of times for my phone and for my Mac, and I've never had to pay. But I know that when you have issues like...
Oh, what up? So this is not a subscription thing?
So there are services provided to you by the Genius Bar. If the Genius Bar is going to open up your computer, or if you're going to wipe your computer, if you're going to do any sort of setting changes, then yes, they are going to charge you, right? But for instance, what I did was I called. I have a way of setting up an appointment, and I called in and I said, hey, look, I'm having a lot of issues because one thing that the system does is it does collect a lot of cache memory, and it's not a straightforward process on how to clear that cache memory. With Windows, you would just run a defrag, right? But on Mac, it's a little bit different, and it's intentional. You know what I mean? It's intentional because it's backing up your data, and it has all of these things to make it run really smooth and be able to retrieve that information without having to process and do all of the heavy lifting. Like you said, it's supposed to run really, really smooth. And so, but the problem here is that the more of that, the more memory, the more storage is being taken up, the harder your computer will slow down. It just gets bogged down. So whatever. Long story short is I went to the Genius Bar. I made the appointment, and they're like, hey, no problem. We're just going to go into the setting, and delete your cache memory, and boom, there you go. And that was free of charge. That was a free of charge service. And for the average user, that's all that you really would need. Now, if you're going to be a person who is doing music production and doing really processor heavy, RAM intensive kind of deals, then and you need to, you wanted to do that overclocking, or you wanted to use certain things. Like right now, I'm using virtual machines, which is basically a computer in a computer. I'm running Windows and Linux on this computer. Well, this bitch needed this needed a whole
upgrade,
another upgrade. Yeah. So I now that this is kind of like what they call a legacy piece. This is a legacy item. The support is going to be gone on that. So
Well, I mean, I hate the fact.
But there's just as much.
This is where my issue comes with Mac. It's just the lack of compatibility with things. It has to be all within their organism or their ecosystem, and that's the part that I don't like. I'm a person that likes to customize the fuck out of my experience, and Mac allows you to do that, but within their world. You can customize your life once you've accepted how our world is, and I'll tell you the truth. For certain things, it's mad comfortable. If I ever have the luck of being able to be successful with my music or whatever projects I have, I will try out a studio with the Mac equipment, because I do know that it runs smooth as fuck. You don't have to search online. Okay, why did I get this error? How can I fix that? Even though I love that type of world. Like I also like the when I hear things that I've worked with Mac before, so I know how it runs smooth. But like for example, you have a 2011, 2012 model that is a legacy piece because you can actually customize it, right? Why doesn't Apple do that? They changed that to make it all fucking encased in this shit so that you can never customize the shit how you want it. You always have to go to them. That's what they want.
Yeah.
Now, that is a business model that they have, and you need to respect it, because at the end of the day, you're paying a lot for your shit, but whenever you take it to them, they solve it for you, right? Well, the way that I look at it is, I want to pay less, and I want to solve this shit myself. But that's a decision that I make. There's people that are like, bro, I don't want to have to learn how to go into like in the fucking ingrains of a computer and having to reboot shit. Is like, all right, that's fair. You gotta pay $2,000-$3,000 and get like a Mac, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'll have a workstation where I can game and see and do all this crazy shit, and for less money. But I have to be on top of my computer. I have to be the mechanic of my own fucking beast car. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I mean, don't get it wrong. There are plenty of community people out there that, if you really wanted to get nitty gritty, you could with a Mac, even with the new ones. But it is going to take a different skill set. And so if you're into the mental skill set of learning settings, you may be into the mental skill set of, changing, just like in a car, right? Like I've got a really basic model car, the trim level of the car, right? But I could technically buy the more powerful model's radio, climate control, GPS, even the freaking sunroof, right? If I really wanted to, I could cut open a hole and install the sunroof that is supposed to be on the cooler models thing. But there is going to be a cost like return on investment, right? Like you're going to spend more money trying to put that in than just buying it up on the front end. You know,
in some cases.
Yeah.
I mean, another subject that comes about this, because there's a guy I think in Washington that is a very good computer. He fixes Mac computers and phones, but apparently the Mac is trying to pass laws that make it illegal for there to be independent repair shops for Macs. So this guy is sort of like trying to get a bill passed where it's like the repairs man's bill, where it's like you should be able to have a way to repair things. This happens a lot with John Deere equipment for farming, where like they come with a computer. It's not mechanical anymore. It is mechanical, but it's tied to a computer. All the systems of this John Deere equipment for farming and shit. It's the same exact situation as with Mac. And if you want to fix your thing, you need to send your tractor to John Deere, wait weeks for them to inspect it, charge you a bunch of money to fix it, and then give it to you back. And they're gonna charge you for changing a piece. When in reality, you could fix the piece if you just allow me to get the reports that the system gives you on what the error is. So that's where the PC sort of mentality comes in. Like, I'm able to like troubleshoot and see what is wrong and then get it fixed, instead of like, the computer doesn't work, all right, let's replace half of it and you have to pay all. It's like, okay, well, that's what Mac does. When you go to Apple and your computer is fucked, a lot of times they just give you a new one. And it's like, they don't even fix their own shit, and they don't want other people to fix it, because no, we want you to come and keep buying it from us, and you're like, oh no, it's fucked, but we'll give you half price, you can get the new one. And they always want to get you on their fucking system, and that's the part that I don't like. But I gotta respect, as a libertarian, that that's their business model and that's what they want to sell. And if they fucking succeed, then that means that there's people that do enjoy and want that product to fucking exist. So
yeah. No, you bring a good point, and we can go into that. But more so, I'm actually really excited, because what is the new thing is going to be their CPUs, and what their new Mac is going to be, right? So up until now, everybody has always been the same as Apple versus Mac, or I'm sorry, Mac versus Windows, or iOS versus Android. Now the CPU front of that battle was AMD versus Intel. And so that, Mac has always been a big Intel person. They do offer AMD processors, but they, generally speaking, they optimize their system for the Intel, and Intel for them. They kind of base it off of. But now, Apple has been developing their own chip called silicon. So now, they're able to manage the thermals on their processors, and they're able to really optimize it. Because think about it from Intel's point of view, like, yeah, I'm gonna make a chip for you, Apple, but I also gotta use this exact same chip, this i9 chip, this quad core chip, for Windows, and I have to keep it like pretty vanilla for both of you guys. Now,
yeah,
Apple
it has to, like what you're saying is this is what I think. When I heard this news, it got me really excited for Apple, because the one positive thing that I can think of right away when you own the ecosystem, which I'm not a fan of, right? I like to customize. But when you're able to own the ecosystem, then you're able to make everything more efficient. That's why when you get a console, even though it has so much less power than a computer, the fact that all the games have to be made using the parameters of the same console, like, right? Like when a PC game is made, they need to make it so that this runs on millions of configurations of PC with different RAMs, different graphics cards, different CPUs. But when you make a game for Xbox or PlayStation, all of them have to make the game based on these measurements. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? So when Apple is making their product, if they have all the pieces that they make themselves, then they can make the software even more optimized than what it is already. So think about this. They're already so optimized to their own software that the fact that now they're going to be making their own CPUs, this is not only a great news for Mac, this is a great news for the world. This is going to change, in my opinion, the PC and the computer world, because on the PC side, Intel's going to be like, oh, I'm not providing chips for Mac anymore, which is half of the market. They're making their own chips. So now they're not my client, they're my competition. So I have to fucking make even better chips, so that better chips. Sorry, that probably sounded like battle chips because of my accent. But they need to make more gangster Intel chips, so that people want to decide to make a PC computer to use the Intel chips that are stronger than the Mac silicon. You get what I'm saying? Like, this is gonna make, because and it incentivizes competition, which is what I love. When there's this competition coming in, it's gonna make Intel and AMD be like, fuck, man. This motherfucker's making their own CPU now. We gotta get our game up, because for a while Intel could be like, yeah, we got you, Mac. Yeah, we're gonna give you the best chip. But then on their end, they're like, yeah, but we wanna make good Intel chips for PC too, because we sell them too. Yeah. So you have a little conflict of interest without even really wanting it.
Exactly. And honestly, the that is gonna be a really good thing. And AMD, the reason why now the fight between Intel and AMD was always there was because Intel was able to gather more market share by including Apple. So AMD optimizes better for Windows, in my opinion. I know that there's different ones that you could do for Mac, but they've optimized better for Windows. So that's why you were able to and they were in less demand. So that drives their price down. That's why everybody's like, what you get for AMD is more bang for your buck. Yes, because the demand is higher for Intel. And so now it's going to equal out. Don't be surprised if AMD chips go up and Intel chips go up. I'm in that battle right now, because I need to build a new power station, and for the first time in my life, I was actually considering going with AMD. Yeah. And you do get more bang for your buck at this stage. And in a few months, the new chip from AMD is coming out, which is Ryzen 4000.
So that's why right now I'm kind of waiting to see where I go with. I do still like Intel because of the stability and the many years that they've been making the same nano chip, which makes it, you know what I mean? They have, I think, about 8 years making the same architecture, just improving it. And AMD kind of just started with this new architecture that seems to be working. But they third party their chip manufacturers in China. It's not like Intel where they do it all themselves. Yeah. And I'm not an Intel fanboy because they do go expensive and they try to fuck you over by taking many versions out. And it takes someone like me that really likes to research to figure out what chip is really good for you. Yeah. But I mean, this happens with AMD as well. They try to come out with. But
that's just it. Every business has their own flavor of how they're gonna get you. You know what I mean? There's always a catch, and that's, you know, you say that you didn't like the Apple. I mean, you're not a fan of the Apple. I'm sorry, you didn't even say that. But what I'm saying is that Apple will hook you by keeping you in that business model. Well, Intel had their version of it, and AMD was just trying to be, you know, part of the game, and now and with good people, and they've always been part of the game, but like it just felt like Intel always had them by a little bit, and now. And
I'm glad that they're coming.
Yeah, they're coming strong.
This all incentivizes competition, and they all have to step up. So even if you're an Intel guy, which most of the time I am, it is good that Apple and AMD are coming up, because that's gonna make Intel make better chips than otherwise.
Yep. Yeah.
Because if they didn't have that pressure, they're like, oh, we're still on top of the game, and they're just fucking breezing their balls. But when they see these motherfuckers coming up, they're like, hey, yo, let's fucking get on this shit. You know what I mean? Because AMD is not fucking around. I think the next Ryzen 4000, which comes out in September, is gonna shock everyone. And don't be surprised if I end up going with one of the new AMD chips if they really come out. Because pretty much for me, I need a lot of cores for video editing, production, and shit, and that's what AMD is coming out right now with, like a lot of cores for your buck. So
yeah,
but you know, we want to know what other people think about this, because I don't know what the world percentage is exactly, but I'm pretty sure we have like about 50% of people that are like Mac users, and then 50% that are PC. And this goes with also iPhone and Android. You know, it's sort of the same. It's very parallel.
It's it's actually it's funny. There are, you know, when people buy Mac, they always think, okay, it's safer. There are no viruses for it. Well, the reality is that the market, especially when it comes to business and enterprise solutions, Windows has it by the balls. So as a hacker, who do I want to develop a worm for? Windows or Mac? I'm going to get more bang for my buck putting a virus into a Windows computer, because that will make me have access to delicate information more often than not. In phone, it's almost the opposite. Other than Samsung, which has really been bad in the last couple of years, iPhone is it's the one that has the most people with their phones and their stuff. So I am curious about how people feel, and there's a lot of different things that people can really like about their phones and about their computers, and we want to hear what is important to you. What's important to you as far as your devices? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to hear more about this, because we can keep on going, please let us know, because we're down to talk about it.
Peace.